All right, y'all, welcome to the show, man. Hope everybody out there is having a great day. We're going to do it, bro. We are going to get to it in just a second. You guys demanded it, so I'm going to deliver. I did a poll on it. 76% of you said you want to watch me react to and break down my viral beatdown of the Daily Wire cuck, Michael Knowles. So I will do that for you. So we're going to get to that in just a second. We're also going to give you updates on ICE. Minneapolis is a fucking war zone being occupied by an invading army. So I'm going to give you all the updates. ICE is running wild. They tear gassed a baby. They deported a 5-year-old U.S. citizen. They rounded up Native Americans, the people who have more of a right to be here than any of us. They rounded them up, so we'll talk about that. We're also going to get to the foreign policy stuff. It's just absolutely psychotic, sociopathic, out of this world. Trump is utterly unhinged. You're not going to believe these updates, man. And when I tell you it is so over, I mean it. You have no idea how over it is for the United States of America. This is a 5-alarm fire. This is catastrophic beyond imagination. So I'll talk about that too. Then later on, the sad and pathetic downfall of Nick Fuentes. You don't want to miss that segment. We have MAGA's Epstein Files cover-up has now gone nuclear. You don't want to miss the new details in that story. And Jon Stewart may actually run for president, y'all. He might actually run for president, so that's very exciting, and we'll talk about that too. By the way, you guys know the deal, man. Everybody please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing at all. You can also click that bell icon. That makes it so every time we drop a video, it gets delivered directly to you. It's a great thing to do for political channels because the YouTube algorithm does not love us because we're controversial. So sub and click that bell icon. It helps us out tremendously over here. You can also support the show on Patreon. That link is below, or tip with that thanks button on YouTube. Remember, guys, this is real independent media. I've never talked to an advertiser. I've never done an ad read. I'm very proud of that fact. You guys support this show from the ground up with small dollar donations. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart for those of you who do support this show. And we will never sell out. I'm never going to talk to an advertiser, and I'm very proud of that. You guys could also sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. That link is below. And go sub to the Corn's World YouTube channel. We do live Kyle and Corn episodes every Monday night. You don't want to miss that. We're going to hang out. We're going to shoot the shit. We're going to take some super chats. So come hang out with us tonight. It should be a great time. Should be a lot of fun. And with that being said, y'all, let's go ahead and jump right in. So, as you all know, I went on Piers Morgan's show the other day. Now, Piers Morgan, they reach out to me at least like once a month. They try to get me on the show all the time. But I don't love doing it. It also conflicts with my normal show time. I do feel like it's a bit of a circus. It's a bit silly. It's a bit like the WWE of intellectual pursuits. And, you know, it's just a lot of pressure for not that much payoff. I'm not sure the juice is worth the squeeze. Now, having said that, it's actually funny that I don't like it as much as I don't like it because I'm actually good in the format. I'm quick, I'm punchy, I'm willing to play the role of the asshole and out douchebag the douchebags on the right. And so it is sort of a format that I thrive in. So at this time I decided to do it, frankly, because the topic was directly in my wheelhouse and I knew that I would beat into the ground any conservative asshole who's defending imperialism and colonialism and neoconservatism and is a bloodthirsty psychopath. So that's why I agreed to do it. Now, I knew in the moment when I was doing it that I was doing good, but I had no idea how viral this thing would go. So thank you and shout out to all you that made it go viral. Thank you to those of you who, retweeted it or posted it or whatever on social media. Much love to the following YouTube channels: Pondering Politics, my boy Josiah; Ebb and Flow; Good Politic Guy, also known as Mac; The Discourse with Brandon, also known as Pretty Bad Lefty on Twitter; The Political Punk YouTube channel; The Vanguard; Jordan Yule and Brett Ehrlich over at TYT. They gave it some nice coverage. Young Don from the Young Don Reacts channel. Shout out to all you guys. Sorry if I missed any of you guys out there. There were so many that covered it that I'm not even sure I got to all of you guys, but thank you from the bottom of my heart for those of you that covered it. I really appreciate it. The thing blew up beyond my wildest imagination. Now, to give you a little bit of backstory before we get into the clips and I break it down for you. Funny enough, my stomach was fucked up this whole day. Now, originally I thought it was just because I was nervous, but it turns out that's not the reason. Crystal and I basically ate the same things the day before, and her stomach was kind of fucked up too, and so it was just bad timing. Like, I actually just had food poisoning at a pretty bad time. So now add that to the fact that when I smacked down Jordan Peterson on the issue of trans issues, I had COVID. Apparently, being like a little off or a little sick is good during these things because it kind of frees you up mentally and really lets you just let it rip, which is exactly what I did. Now, a lot of people pointed out, hey man, why are you wearing sunglasses? You look kind of douchey. To which I reply, yes, that was the point. This thing is a circus, as Dave Smith called it, and a very important circus at that, which is another thing Dave Smith said. I'm well aware of that. So, I treated it like a circus. I put on my clown nose and my rainbow hair. I basically treated it like I was the heel at a WWE event, and it worked, right? And it worked. And it's funny, when it comes to wrestling, as any of you out there who watch this know, sometimes if you lean so hard into being the douche, if you're the heel and you're really good at playing the heel, there's almost like this horseshoe thing that happens where people go, oh, I actually like that guy. Because he's so douchey and it's so over the top and he's playing the role so well that, hey, I actually kind of like it. So that's where you get, the pink shirt, the shiny tie, the glasses. That was the idea behind that. And again, it worked more than I ever could have imagined. Now, let's go ahead and jump right in here. This is us going back and forth on the issue of Venezuela, and I'll have a lot to say about it. Let's get it.
I may not agree with all of it, but I do understand the logic to what Trump is doing here. Do you?
No, because we don't have a right to act like this around the world. We're supposed to be a nation among nations, not a nation above nations. And they used to at least lie to us in the past and say that this is good for the world and we're spreading freedom and democracy. Now they don't even bother to lie. Now it's naked, rank, disgusting imperialism where they say, we're going to take the oil. And the point is that we're going to take the oil. We're going to take the minerals. We're going to take the precious metals. We're doing this for our corporations. We're doing it for the Epstein class, the billionaires. And this, to piggyback on what Dave Smith said, is frankly not what many of the MAGA voters thought they were signing up for. They thought America first actually meant America first. By the way, you also replaced the Maduro regime with the Maduro regime. Congratulations on that. It's also been now a week straight of pro-regime protests. Now you have roving gangs of Venezuelan militias that are kidnapping Americans. But again, I come back to the fundamental point, which is if you sign on to stuff like this, you're saying might makes right and the law of the jungle is back. What you're saying is China has a right to go into whatever smaller country they want and depose the leader and say we're doing it because we can and we have the right to do it and we have bigger guns and there's nothing you can do to stop it. So they're never going to address that fundamental question, which is why do we have a right? Do we actually believe in international law or was that all a joke? Are we rolling the clock back to the 1700s and the 1800s and we're going super primitive style here? And I think the answer to that is yes, they want to go super primitive style.
What you're going to see here is Michael Knowles chimes in. And I don't know why he decided to say these things. Because first of all, it's a total non sequitur. Like what he says has nothing to do with anything I said at all. But he thinks if he harps away on the fact that there was a version of international law that goes back a long time, that somehow he scores a point in the debate. And I don't get that at all. Because, again, it's totally unrelated to anything I said. The point I was making was Trump's a bloodthirsty, fascist, warmonger imperialist, because Trump is a fascist, bloodthirsty, warmonger imperialist. And then now he's going to chime in, and he cannot help himself. He says the word antiquity like 4 times.
International law goes back to antiquity. It's not some creation of modernity, whether we're talking about the 1700s or the 20th century.
The Geneva, yes, but here's the thing. That version of international law was fake. It wasn't real, as evidenced by the fact that we had rank imperialism and colonialism at the time. So it wasn't real. And then we tried the League of Nations, and that also fell apart because it wasn't real. Then finally, after World War I and World War II, when we looked at a pile of millions of dead bodies, we said we really can't go on like this. We need actual rules and laws and a framework that we abide by. And that's where you get, the Geneva Conventions and the Nuremberg Tribunal and the United Nations. And then now, unfortunately, we're going through the same thing where because of actions of, say, George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, because of the actions of Donald Trump, now the UN is basically falling apart and useless and totally toothless, right? And that's a problem. To live in that world is bad. Then anybody gets to act the same way. If they have the bigger guns, then they can be the asshole. And guess what, Michael Knowles? Eventually, there's going to come a time where we don't have the biggest guns. We don't have the biggest, baddest military. Empires rise and fall throughout history. And so do you want to greenlight China overtaking whatever tiny country they want for whatever reason or non-reason they want? And the answer is no for them, but yes for us, because he's a fucking idiot and he has zero logical consistency.
The Nuremberg Tribunal, the Geneva Conventions and the Nuremberg Tribunal?
Yes, those exist, but international laws, the jus gentium goes back to antiquity. However, unfortunately, a lot of our liberal friends think history began a few decades ago.
The League of Nations was useless. It fell apart, and that's why we had the UN. That's why we had the Geneva Convention.
Right, I'm talking about millennia ago,
because we looked at piles of millions of dead bodies, and we said that's a bad idea. We looked at piles of millions of dead bodies and said, that's a bad idea. Let's not do that anymore. Let's actually have a framework and rules and laws. And Trump is blowing that up. By the way, he bombed fishing boats from Venezuela, Trinidad, and Tobago, and Colombia. He just did the regime change in Venezuela. He bombed Yemen and Somalia and Nigeria and Iran. He's threatening Greenland and Panama and Canada and Cuba and Mexico. And you sit there the whole time and act like it's okay. Is there anything Trump can do, Michael Knowles, that you would say, I condemn it, and you hop off the Trump train, or are you going to tickle his taint for the rest of your fucking life?
No, there have been plenty of Trump policies that I've criticized because he's only right about 99.78% of the time. So the First Step Act I thought was a misstep. But I would say the rest. Excuse me. I would say the rest of the administration has been very successful. What's your problem?
I'm actually surprised they kept the glug in there. I got to be honest with y'all. I really am surprised by that. And by the way, I didn't even need to say anything the rest of the debate. I could have gotten up and left and won the debate at this point. Because yes, you are admitting that you are, and I don't even need to finish the sentence. I'll let myself finish the sentence. Listen.
My problem is that you're a cuck and you're a hack and you're not an independent thinker and you're meat riding Trump.
Why do you say
and you know that what he's doing in imperialism and you don't care.
I just answered your question. And I corrected
Congratulations. You rented your brain to a war criminal pedophile rapist. I hope you're happy.
A war criminal pedophile rapist? You brought up a point. You brought up international law and you made
That's the problem. Yeah. You're what Rush Limbaugh used to call his audience. They were called ditto heads. As in like ditto, whatever he said, I agree with. And so the right has this like proud streak of anti-intellectualism and this proud streak of being lemmings or sheep. And that's what this is. And so you, by your own words, say you're with Trump 99.78% of the time. That is mental. That is beyond embarrassing. And you say it proudly. You say it proudly, which is why I called you a Trump meat rider, which is why I said you tickle his taint, because that is exactly what you do. You're not a serious person. And that's the thing, guys. I don't take these people seriously. They're fucking dangerous. For sure, they're vile, they're wretched, they're dangerous, but I don't take them seriously. They're a fucking joke, and history will put them in that category without any doubt whatsoever.
False point, a dumb point, which is that international law began only a few hundred years ago.
Now, notice, I didn't say that. He's saying I said that. I didn't say that. This is why I don't know why he decided to go with this line of argument. This is convincing to absolutely nobody.
I corrected you, and I pointed out that the international law is part of the Western tradition. Excuse me one second. It goes back to antiquity. It's a principle of the jus gentium. And then you said, well, international...
For the love of God, stop saying antiquity. You're making a point that doesn't address anything I said. Why do you think this makes you look good? It doesn't.
Law has failed because of the League of Nations failure, which I think is actually undermining your argument and proving my point and proving Trump's point, because the liberal internationalism that was established by people like Woodrow Wilson did in fact fail, which is why we need to restore an older and more classical conception of the international order, which is precisely what Trump's doing. So I think you've hoisted yourself with your own petard.
I've hoisted myself on my own petard. Oh. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. This is actually worse. I've seen this clip way too many times already, but I honestly feel like it's getting worse every time. It's so crazy. Why would you use this line of argument? You're literally saying exactly what I'm going to accuse you of saying here, which is we need to go back to might makes right and the law of the jungle. But he describes that as an older version of international law to put like some sheen of legitimacy on it as opposed to what it is, which is, you know, a sociopathic freak who is a war criminal, pedophile, bloodthirsty, rapist, corrupt goon. Like, that guy's got to have all the power. That's the version of international law I would like to apply.
And then you just make a lot of vulgar sort of non sequiturs because you don't have a leg to stand on.
All right, let me bring in...
Let me ask you this question. Hold on, Piers, let me ask him a question real quick. Tell me the name of the Minister of Defense in Venezuela.
I don't know.
And that's the problem, y'all. And that's the problem, is that here's this guy... Have you considered the jus gentium going back to antiquity, please? I do declare. Chip, chip, cheerio. Meanwhile, you don't even know the name of the defense minister in Venezuela, the place you're arguing for a regime change right now. By the way, I literally think I could have said, what's the name of the VP, an acting president? I still don't think he would have gotten it. It would have been a bigger risk for me to say that, but I almost said that. I went with one that's one step more difficult. What's the name of the defense minister in Venezuela? Which, by the way, if you're advocating for regime change in Venezuela and you don't know the name of the defense minister, you're just as fucking ridiculous as George W. Bush when he was asked about the war in Iraq. What's the difference between Sunni and Shia? And he didn't know. This is the problem. These fucking disgusting warmonger freaks, and they don't even bother to learn about the countries they're destroying.
Whatever his name
is.
And
that's the problem. Is that you're advocating for a regime change. You don't know the first thing.
I didn't. I just said the opposite. I argued against a regime change.
Notice how Weasley they get here. And Piers chimes in to be Weasley too. I didn't argue for regime change. I argued against regime change. So in their terminology, kidnapping the sovereign president of a country does not count as regime change. Okay, so by that logic, can China kidnap Donald Trump and then J.D. Vance becomes president and then China gets to say to you directly in your face, I didn't do regime change. It's the same regime. Did they get to do it? No, of course not. Of course not. It is true that the same powers that be are in place because it's the same ideology that's in place. It's the same military that's in place. That's true. But you can't say it doesn't count because all I did was kidnap the president. It reminds me of all the times we do like massive airstrikes and drone strikes and then go, that doesn't count as an act of war. It was just a limited strike. This is what Russia did in Ukraine. They go, oh, a limited special military operation as opposed to a war. It's just it's Orwellian. It's playing with the fucking language to try to pretend like this isn't what it is.
She said the opposite. I heard Michael
Kyle, I just want to correct
I heard Michael Knowles say
the
regime remains there, right? So he said the opposite, in fact. I want to bring in Coleman.
No, but he wanted to take out Maduro. Don't give me that cutesy little
Yes,
BS.
but he made the point that the regime is still... He made the point the regime is still there, and the vice president appears to be much more compliant with running Venezuela the way America would prefer.
There's no evidence of that either, by the way.
For its national security than Maduro. So that's what Michael said. He didn't advocate regime change. Let me bring in Coleman Hughes. Coleman,
kidnapping the president is not
hang on, Carl. Let me bring in
regime change.
Coleman has said a word.
And this is why people hate these assholes. And this is why people hate politics. What a fucking smug-ass, dumb-ass point to make, thinking like, with this one weird trick, get out of accountability for being a warmonger. Like, actually, no, we're not fucking buying that anymore. Nobody's buying it. All right, more on the same topic of foreign policy. We also get into it here. Let's watch.
I do think the concept of international law has been twisted and torn apart so badly that I'm actually uncertain what it really means anymore. Because people don't seem to... I mean, if you look at what Israel's done in Gaza, I would say they've trampled over international law with utter impunity, and they don't care.
Reasonable minds can differ, but I agree that's a good point on the murkiness of international law.
Yeah, okay, Carl.
Yeah, well, I mean, I find this whole conversation preposterous because the idea that we're the moral arbiter of anything is honestly laughable. Trump is himself a criminal. He was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein. He's covering for a billionaire pedophile cabal as we speak. We armed and funded a genocide in Gaza. We also armed and funded a genocide committed by Saudi Arabia in Yemen. If there's any country on earth where there's some semblance of a sound argument to do regime change, it's our regime being changed.
By the way, that is a point none of them will fucking address. Because it's true. If you're going to talk about rogue regimes, if you're going to talk about psychotic, unhinged leaders who are just hell-bent on destruction, then we're the number one culprit. It's like Noam Chomsky says. Like, we are the number one terrorist government in the world right now. And we also have, right now, the biggest weapons, so we could do the most damage. So there's this weird thing that happens in foreign policy conversations where everybody just assumes the good intentions of our government. And I'm here to shake that whole shit up and say, no, what if we're the baddies? That's the point. And none of them will engage with that. So once you open up the door to this logic of we get to do regime change, then why can't another country do regime change if they view a different government as some sort of fundamental threat to peace and security? Any objective analysis would say we are the biggest threat to peace and security, and it's not even particularly close.
So I don't want to open the door to this might makes right, law of the jungle nonsense. And everybody else except Dave, seemingly on the panel, is in favor of that. And
America has a mechanism. Kyle, hang on. America has a mechanism for regime change. It's called the election every 4 years. And the truth is, Americans had a good, long, hard look at...
You're making my point.
Well, no, I'm not.
This is my point.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
I'm saying you live in a free democratic society with free democratic elections. That's why Trump won in 2016.
Don't get me started on kakistocracy. Don't get me started on oligarchy. Don't get me started on mobocracy. Don't get me started on what we actually are in this country, which is a corrupt fucking mess.
That's why he lost in 2020, whatever he wants people to think. And that's why he won again in 2024. That is regime change, how it should happen.
We back 73% of the world's dictatorships. The idea that we say, here's the dictator we don't like, we're going to overthrow them, is ridiculous. By any objective standard, Netanyahu is worse than Maduro, and we're not overthrowing him. So the whole conversation is absurd. We're in no position to be the world police or the moral arbiters. In fact, Trump himself literally says, this is about the oil. It's about the natural resources. It's about stealing that from the corporations and the billionaires. So the whole conversation about,
I think it can be, I actually think, I think Venezuela can be about a number of things at the same time.
Oh, my sweet, sweet summer child. Well, maybe it's actually about the good things and not just stealing stuff and the bad things. That is precious.
That's why I think nuance is an important factor in these things.
Nuance!
That's the
hang on, Kyle.
Can it just be pointed out?
It can be about oil. It can be about oil. It can be about Maduro being a gangster. It can be about a number of things.
This was sold to us.
Yes, Kyle, thank you. Trump is a gangster. It's got nothing to do. Trump looks around and goes, I'm offended by how gangster this foreign leader is. Bitch, what? You're the number one foreign gangster.
Trump's a gangster.
All right. isn't it funny that we have this whole conversation, and while you're saying it could be about all these things, you know what no one's bringing up? Drugs. And that's what it was sold to us as.
Right.
Just like all these other wars, they just lie through their teeth. It has nothing to do with the drug problem or
It's in
tiny
part about
fraction
drugs.
of it.
Love it. Love it. And look at Michael Knowles in the cuck chair in the corner. Well, actually, it's kind of about drugs. Have I mentioned antiquity? Go away, loser. Jesus, who is that for? Who is it for? What Michael Knowles' thing is? I'd love to know the answer to that. All right, and then finally, we get to the issue of Minnesota and Minneapolis and ICE agents shooting people in the face. And this goes about as well as expected. Funny enough, this one is actually, the panel is even more against me here than they were before on the other issue. Because at least Dave Smith was like maybe 90% with me on the other topic. On this one, he's maybe 50% with me, if that.
Talked about both sides taking sort of implacable, incendiary positions. You compared ICE agents to Nazis, described the officer as an ICE thug who murdered a woman on camera by shooting her in the face. I mean, you're determining there that what we have watched with our own eyes, because we got the benefit of seeing all the videos, is somebody making a deliberate calculation to murder that woman for no reason.
I think he did. And
Why would
if
you do
study
that?
the video closely, well, I'll explain it to you. So first of all, these guys are all roided up freaks. Let's point that out. That these are like Proud Boys and white nationalists and the dregs of society who have now been given a gun and a badge.
Well, that's a ridiculous generalization. And again, I don't think that...
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's not, Piers. If you've actually read the articles on this, the detailed reporting that's come out on this, it's actually factually correct at this point. They changed the training from 6 months all the way down to 47 days. Why? Because Trump is the 47th president, and they thought it'd be cute to, let's just do 47 days. They got rid of the sit-up requirement because so many fat asses were trying to join. You have literal criminals who are trying to join. You have people being accepted without even going through the basic paperwork. They have like over $1 billion now. They're hiring anybody and everybody. Guess who's signing up? It's the Proud Boys. It's the Oath Keepers. It's various white nationalist groups. It's the 3%ers. Okay? It's the people who were at January 6th. That's who's signing up. It's not a surprise. They're the type of people who would be attracted to this job. And don't take my word for it. ICE agents who've been there for a long time have come out and said, these people are totally unprofessional and are extremists. That's what they've said.
Let me finish
but that
talking
kind of
and then you can talk.
generalization
You wanna
doesn't help your
disrupt
argument. It makes you sound equally deranged.
No. I don't care about convincing you guys with your cult of fake nuance. I care about speaking to the American people who saw with
God
their eyes
forbid we
what's
should have
happening.
nuance.
Yeah, because it's fake nuance. That's the problem. You have J.D. Vance out there saying that this guy, it should have absolute immunity. Absolute immunity? So
I
if
don't
you
agree.
rape somebody, he should be able to get off? This is fucking ridiculous. Absolute immunity.
I don't agree. Nor do I think,
Kyle.
Nor do I think that Renee Good was deliberately trying to run over this ICE officer. I just don't think that there's
and the
any
guy was trying to kill
evidence
her.
that she was trying to do that or to cause him bodily harm.
Now, notice what happened there, and this is a good, important... It's not really a debate trick, but it works. Anytime somebody comes at you aggressively, and if you stand on business and puff your chest out, and you say, no, I'm right, and here's why I'm fucking right, notice what ended up happening there. Instead of taking me on that point further, he retreated. Piers retreated. Because his whole thing is to both sides, right? The false equivalence to both sides. Oh, I see both sides of this. And so he was, that ICE guy wasn't trying to kill her. He didn't want to murder her. And then I came out aggressively and didn't give an inch. And then he retreats to, well, I also think Renee Good, she wasn't there to cause trouble. So you're going to get more out of it if you stand on business. And if you you don't need to be all mealy-mouthed and weaselly, and you don't need to pre-concede if there's nothing to fucking concede on. So it's actually a super important point for people that if you come back over the top, based on the substance, of course, don't just do it for the sake of doing it, but if you're right and you know you're right and you come back over the top, that can get them to back down.
I think it was quite clear from the wheel positioning that she was trying to drive away. And the guy was ignoring his training to stand in front of her, and he had a past incident which probably in the moment made him fear the same thing was going to happen.
Piers,
That's not true, by the way. What happened previously was he broke in through the back window trying to get into somebody's vehicle and get them out. Broke in through the back window, broke the glass, and hung on, and then he got dragged a little bit. So they lied, the right lie, and said, he almost got hit with a car previously. That was a lie. That's what that is, a lie. They fudged the facts and try to pretend like that was the case to try to make it seem more justifiable.
If you watch closely,
I
literally never even made the fucking point I was trying to make at the beginning.
Don't talk at the same time.
The wheels were aimed at the cop when she accelerated.
So to notice how I never was even able to answer the first thing because they kept interrupting me.
All right, Kyle, I'll come back to you.
Kyle,
I will come back to you. Let Michael just interject on this one point.
Now, notice what happens here. He lets Michael interject on this one point, then watch.
It's really important because I feel sorry for the woman. It's very sad that she died. I'm not in any way happy that she died. She was in that position, one, because her lesbian partner said, drive, baby, drive, drive. The lesbian partner then said, it's my fault.
Why is it relevant that she's a lesbian?
So he interrupted me, so I'm going to interrupt his ass right back. He brought up that she was a lesbian. Why is that relevant? I need you to stop and think about why he mentioned that, because it's actually super dark. And most people cannot really wrap their minds around why he would slip that in there so casually. The answer is because in his mind and in the mind of his audience, that dehumanizes her. That makes it so she doesn't count like you do. She's a lesbian. And you know how the lesbians are, politically radical, causing trouble, asking for it, basically. That's why he does that. Oh, the radical extremist couple. Basically trying to imply domestic terrorism like NSPM 7, right? That's why he does that. So, and that's why I really pounce on this, because I'm not going to let him get away with dehumanizing her casually. And that's what it is. It's character assassination, and I really lose it when I speak next.
1 second.
Why is that relevant?
Because she's a partner.
You interrupted me. Why is it relevant that she's a lesbian?
1 second, Kyle. I'm just trying to get a conversation.
I would say it's irrelevant that she's a lesbian. Secondly, drive can be an entreaty to drive away, which is what I think she was doing. Thirdly, the demeanor of Renee Good in the final video that came out shows somebody pretty calm, certainly not confrontational, certainly doesn't look to me like somebody intent on mowing down an ICE officer.
Piers,
I think she just wanted to get out of there.
Piers, hold on. Are you suggesting that because a woman says, I'm not mad, that means she isn't mad? I think anyone who's ever interacted with a woman knows that's not what that phrase means. Second of all, we don't have to just judge by her words. She accelerated. You can look at it in the footage while the tires are aimed at the cop. And this is a message.
The insane lie. Like, bro, we literally have it on video. We literally have it on video. The New York Times, which is a both sides factory, by the way, broke down the video and they made it clear she's driving away. The wheel is turned away from the ICE thug. That's super clear. And he just comes out here on this giant show and casually lies.
I feel bad for her. She was indoctrinated into thinking that you're allowed to drive your car at cops or...
So she's not the ICE thug who shot a 37-year-old soccer mom in the face 3 times. That one's not indoctrinated. She's indoctrinated. Indoctrinated in what? Into the First Amendment? Into free speech? Into trying to improve the country? Into being anti-authoritarian? Wasn't that your guys' whole thing? Wasn't your whole thing fucking don't tread on me? And now you're like, tread on me, or certainly tread on the lesbians.
Or disobey police orders, or block traffic and create a dangerous situation. This is an important message to all the leftists out there who want to do this. You cannot drive your SUV into a police officer. If you do that, you will be shot in the face and deserve it, and it will be very, very sad.
All right, Kyle, back to you.
I love that we're now doing character assassination of a 37-year-old soccer mom who got shot in the face 3 times. You're fucking disgusting for doing that, and you know that you're disgusting for doing that. And if you watch the video closely, he switches hands with his phone to prepare to grab his gun before he was in any danger whatsoever. Okay, so this guy, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was getting himself into. These people are looking for trouble. They're going to Minneapolis. They are cracking skulls. They are rounding up innocent people. They absolutely are Trump's Gestapo, and everybody knows it.
All right, let me bring in Dave Smith.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Thank you, Kyle, for saying the thing that I, Kyle, would also say. I feel like this was most of the time that I spoke. And that's one of the frustrating things about being on these panels is that the thing went on for over an hour. And I got to speak for, I don't even know, a grand total of 5 or 10 minutes. Something like that. Probably closer to 10. So it's frustrating, but I think the arguments came across pretty clearly. But now my favorite part of the conversation. So in the wake of that, it kind of immediately, as soon as it dropped, it went viral. Like I saw everybody tweeting it and retweeting it and making fun of Michael Knowles, and everybody was having a good time with it. And like I said, shout out to all those YouTube channels that covered it. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate you. But the Daily Wire, like a day or two later, in a desperate attempt to try to control the narrative and cope and seethe, look at this. They tweeted, Kyle Kulinski was a little out of his depth debating Michael Knowles, so he resorted to calling Michael names and making vulgar gestures. But by the way, hey assholes, you're the Trump people. You're the Trump people. This is the motherfucker who talked about the size of his dick on stage. This is the guy who ran for office and was thirsting over Arnold Palmer's cock. Okay? You don't get to, that's rather vulgar. Oh, is it? You probably shouldn't have elected the most vulgar motherfucker on planet Earth then if you didn't want us to be vulgar in return. I can't believe these people. They're amazing. You say anything that crosses any sort of decorum or civility line and they go, oh, how could you? We would never. Like, bro, you did it 17 times within the last hour. What are you talking about? So they start with that bad move. Then they say, but don't worry, Michael put him in his place. Quote, I think you've hoisted yourself with your own petard. And then you just make a lot of vulgar non sequiturs because you don't have a leg to stand on. Bro, they quoted the "You've hoisted yourself on your own petard," as if that was his like best moment. They quoted that part. Oh my god, it's so glorious. So, couple things. First of all, I would say I feel bad for the Daily Wire intern who was forced to pretend like Michael Knowles won the debate. I would say I feel bad for that person, but let's be serious. This tweet looks like it was written directly by Michael Knowles himself. So there's no interposing. It's Michael himself trying to do narrative control. And then point number 2, I love this from John Marco. He says, I think you've hoisted yourself with your own petard is the kind of shit Hillary Clinton would say and think she won the debate. Trumped up, trickle down. That's what I call it. If you go and you read the replies here on the Daily Wire, Michael Knowles got his cheeks clapped by Kyle, and you bootlickers fucking know it. Shout out to Mike Figueredo, a.k.a. the Humanist Report. Common Kyle W. And then it shows the rest in piss bozos woke his back, and it's me smoking the cigar. You guys remember this? You guys remember this? That clip can get a lot of mileage for moments like this. War in Venezuela? No thanks. I agree with Kyle. I'm glad we can always rely on the American conservative movement to heighten the level of intellectual discourse and civility in this great nation. Michael got absolutely destroyed here. Why are you posting this like it's a W? The Daily Wire is cooked. And then you go on here, and it's basically like a bunch of fucking people agreeing with me, many of them lefties. But then every now and then you even get the fucking, like the right-wingers who are like, hey, dog, this is not it. Let's stop pretending. This did not go like you guys wanted it to go. So anyway, that was fun. Thank you all for making that worth it. And I appreciate it. And perhaps because there was such an overwhelmingly positive response and I thrive in the format, even though I don't like it, perhaps I'll, accept some of the invitations more often now. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.